Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The New York Yankees start off the season with a historic sweep on opening weekend against the Milwaukee Brewers, and they hit 15 home runs in these 3 games, 36 runs combined, which is ultra impressive. I mean, really, games 2 and 3 were the big ones. Actually, only had 4 runs in the first game, but just starts off right away where Austin Wells, batting leadoff, hits a home run in the first at bat in game 1. Paul Goldschmidt leads off and hits a home run in game 2 off of Nestor Cortes, where the Yankees 3 pitches, 3 home runs, first time Major League Baseball history that happens. It's against Nestor. It's a Goldschmidt home run on the first pitch, then Cody Bellinger, then Aaron Judge. And just an offensive explosion in game 2, 9 home runs, which is a franchise record for the Yankees, and tied for second in baseball history for 9 home runs in a game, the record being 10. So just this, went so much better than I could have thought. And again, it's always going to be overreaction in, that first series of the season. It's just 3 games at a 162. But, coming off of losing Juan Soto, which it does get annoying talking about him. And look, as time goes on, it will be less, but it's a huge narrative to this season. And I think the fact that, the Yankees bring in a couple of new players, to have some young players that are, developing and hopefully getting better. Really just the offense was dominant. And at the head of that was Aaron Judge, right? And there's a lot to discuss here, and we'll try to kind of compact all of that. A few negatives, as there's always going to be, but this is definitely going to be more of a joyous episode. But Aaron Judge, 4 homers and 11 RBIs this series, including 3 homers and 8 RBIs in game 2. Crazy. And Judge actually did struggle a bit in spring training, which does not mean much of anything, but I figured I'd mention it. Look, Aaron Judge, there's still postseason questions to be answered, but there's no sense in harping on that now. If and when the Yankees get there, that will be a topic of conversation by me. But in the regular season, it doesn't get much better than Aaron Judge. Just a total force. And he batted He batted second in game 1 and batted third in games 2 and 3. So they faced the righty Freddie Peralta. So it was more of a lefty type lineup, if you will. Then Cortes, who is a lefty, so more of a right-handed lineup in game 2. And then game 3, because Aaron Savali is a reverse splits guy, it was almost a mix where you did have, like, as Waldo, you had the players you had in the first game, but the order was a little bit different. And so much to say that I think Paul Goldschmidt, and it's funny because Austin Wells, that's a pretty memorable moment. On opening day, first batter of the game for the Yankees, and he homers. However, Paul Goldschmidt was fantastic as the leadoff hitter, and I think that that's where they're going to start again, regardless of the reverse splits. Now, it'll be interesting because the Arizona Diamondbacks, Goldschmidt's former team, it's all going to be right-handers as of now, scheduled. Corbin Burns, Zach Gallen, and Merrill Kelly. Not sure on the splits, but with how good Goldschmidt did in that leadoff spot, he actually didn't really do much of anything in game 1. I think they might leave him there. And so then, therefore, it would be Bellinger and Judge, 1, 2, 3. Not bad. But yeah, Judge was the catalyst. He is the story. But as a team, Jazz Chisholm Jr., 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. And look, some of those were in low leverage spots, to be fair, right? But not all of them. The first homer that Chisholm hit in game 3 was a pretty big one. The other one was more of a tack on one, but still. Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells, they both get 2 homers each. And for both of them, they both homered in games 1 and 2. Other than that, their numbers weren't anything to write home about, but still, in part, I'm saying that because you look at some of these other numbers and they're just out of control. Cody Bellinger, just totally solid. I already brought up his home run, but, he just looked really good. And I'm very excited about what he can bring. Paul Goldschmidt, just great batting leadoff. And so just to round out the homers, Judge 4, Chisholm 3, Volpe and Wells 2, and then Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Oswald Peraza, and Ben Rice 1. So each of the position players got in. Peraza and Escara were the only two that did not start. Um, and I guess, let's talk individual players, and then, for this year, I'm going to try visit stuff, but I want to kind of, provide as much information and my thoughts as I can. But we're going to go through the games, but try to condense it just a little bit. But let's talk about some of the hitters again. Brought up Judge. Look, overall, defensively, still issues. Game two, I mean, what was it? The second or third inning, maybe the second inning, it felt like the fifth inning from the World Series of Game Five. It was that bad. And some of the players involved aren't necessarily ones that are mainstay guys. Like, for example, Pablo Reyes, who, look, that was a pretty bad defensive showing at third base for Pablo Reyes, who is not nearly a good enough hitter to be doing that. So that's where it's like for a guy like that, you have to clean it up defensively and hit. So, we'll see. He had a good spring training, but we'll see what happens. But he did get the nod over Peraza, for example. Um, I guess we'll talk more on the negative side. Jason Dominguez. And look, some good patience provided. He had 3 walks. He had at least two walks in game two, if not more. And so, like, his plate presence was okay. He really didn't do much offensively. He was one of the worst among all of them. But him in the outfield, I don't feel good about it. I really, really don't. I think him in left, um, it's a problem. Even if it were center field, I wouldn't feel good about it. Just it's an attitude thing, and it's B, a mechanical sort of thing. For him, and maybe mechanical is not the right word, but you think about mechanical more in terms of at bat, but just the way he catches the ball, the way he fields it. I am concerned about that from Dominguez. And another player, he's going to need to show it offensively for me to accept him being out there to the point now where, let's say you fast forward into playoffs, and the Yankees may feel the same way. Not that I'm the biggest Trent Grisham fan, because I'm not. Give me Grisham in center, Bellinger in left, um, without even thinking twice about it. And honestly, right now, if I had to choose against righties, let's just say that to DH Ben Rice or Jason Dominguez, I'm saying Ben Rice. So again, not high on Dominguez right now. Really excited about what he can be. I kind of call him a wild card for what the season could be, but early returns on him, I'm not getting a good sense there. But a lot of other things to be happy about from the Yankees. Um, and again, I've kind of touched on it. The defense was a problem. You had a Jazz Chisholm error. Let's quickly kind of discuss the starters. And you know what? Um, let's get into things as far as game by game goes. And the first game was Carlos Rodon on the mound. He was really, really good, and that's something to be happy about. Look, opening day, that can get the adrenaline pumping, and when that happens for Rodon, it can go one of two. It's to me, it's like to the extremes, and this was the good extreme. Goes 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. It allowed 1 homer, which is classic Rodon. But hey, if it's going to be a solo homer, which it was, you'll take that all day long. Um, but yes, like, hey, right now, because I was kind of feeling, and this gets overrated, like both Cole out, and then Heel to a lesser extent. I kind of felt as if Max Fried is the ace. Well, maybe not so fast. Maybe ultimately that will happen, but Carlos Rodon, really, really, who's now in his third season as a Yankee, maybe he can take that role. He has the stuff to do it. It's really, to me, between the ears with him. So Rodon was excellent. Tim Hill, so happy that he got brought back and continues to look like he did last season. It's a shame he wasn't brought in to face, uh, not to face Freddie Freeman. Ultimately he would have went against him, but in that extra inning scenario in game one, where it was Nestor Cortes, and it's just ironic where Tim Hill is re-signed, Nestor Cortes is traded, and in the first weekend, Hill looks great, Cortes gets lit up. And who do they go with in that situation? The starter, Nestor Cortes. But again, it can drive you nuts if you think about it for too long. Mark Leiter Jr., another bright spot from this weekend, someone that I had high hopes for when they brought him from the Cubs. It did not work out in the regular season, but he got some really big outs and was one of their better relievers in the postseason. And now he's slotting in as the seventh inning guy, right? He is the third right-handed reliever behind Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. I wasn't sure whether it would be him or Fernando Cruz. I'm very happy for it to be Mark Leiter Jr. Cruz is someone that has that legitimate strikeout ability, as does Lauder Jr. in a different way. Lauder Jr. kind of more is a mix and match, change of speeds kind of pitcher, where Cruz is more of a power splitter sort of guy. Um, but yes, like as of now, feeling pretty good about what the bullpen can provide. And, he was good. Luke Weaver was very, very good. Devin Williams was shaky as hell against his former team in his Yankee debut. That was really, of course, as nervous as it got for Yankee fans this series, but he did get out of it. He did ultimately get out of it. So, um, you know, it starts out with an Austin Wells homer, which is just great. Again, 2-0 pitch. The first swing, I mean, to take it a step further, the first swing of the Yankee season is gone. And you know what? I'll say it right now. A lot of this has been made about the torpedo bats by the Yankees, and I guess some fans are upset about it. They're not Yankee fans, but that it's cheating or whatever. But absolutely not. These are legal rules, and good for the Yankees for trying to find advantages. Um, and hey, if it's and not everyone's using it, right? Like Aaron Judge is not using it, but I know Jazz Chisholm Jr. is certainly one that has. I think Volpe as well, just to name a couple. Cody Bellinger might be another one. And hey, I mean, certainly if there's a correlation there, great. And I wouldn't be if surprised other teams try to follow suit here. But again, that has been a topic of conversation. So Austin Wells, it's the home run. And then in the second inning, it would be Anthony Volpe. Also going opposite field. So Wells' homer was, I think, only would have been a home run in Yankee Stadium, nowhere else. Volpe's a little bit more, maybe like 9 or 10 parks where Volpe's would have been a home run. Then in the third, a quick response. Vinny Capra hits a solo homer off of Carlos Rodon to make it 2-1. And then, Rodon, a really good job. And then, and there was one play where between Goldschmidt and Rodon where they don't get the out. No harm, no foul. Rodon was healthy. He wasn't hurt on the play. um, Goldschmidt's defense so far, I'm curious as to that. It'd be great if he could really be above average at first base. Because with Anthony Rizzo, we saw that in the beginning of Rizzo's tenure with the Yankees. That quickly went away. And Rizzo had a great reputation, as does Paul Goldschmidt. He really does. So I want to see how I don't want to be upset about the fact that Paul Goldschmidt isn't great. And so far for me, the sample size is short. Maybe I'm also talking spring training, but I don't think so. I think I'm more talking about this weekend where there were some good plays, but some plays that weren't great either. So maybe it's just him settling in. That's important. I want him to be someone that you can trust on the defensive side. So let's jump to the top of the sixth where Rodon kind of runs out of gas a little bit. Couple of walks, and Tim Hill comes on and just does the job. He did get actually at least one strikeout in the third game of this series. He's not a strikeout pitcher at all, just soft contact, ground balls. And the single he gave up was a lucky one. Joey Ortiz just kind of deaded it into the ground, and nothing as well as Cabrera could do. So it ends up being a base load situation for Isaac Collins, and he grounds out to Volpe. So keeps the Yankees up at 2-1 at that point. And Rodon would get the win ultimately because of Tim Hill's work right there. Mark Leiter Jr. is the fantastic seventh inning. And then the Yankees tack on a couple in the bottom of the seventh. Key runs, honestly. Ben Rice walk, Oswaldo Cabrera single. Again, both off lefties, too, which is impressive on both fronts. And then with one out, Aaron Judge, a lucky double off of the third base bag. Hey, it was fortunate. And it gave the Yankees a 3-1 lead. And then Cody Bellinger, it's a sac fly to make it 4-1. Very, very important. Because after a good Luke Weaver eighth inning, the ninth inning was dicey by Devin Williams. Joey Ortiz single, Isaac Collins double, Jake Bauers, the former Yankee, walks, and Jake Bauers ends up pitching games 2 and 3 and actually pitches scoreless innings. So that's the thing, too. What makes this so impressive is the Yankees, it was only 8 innings for each game that the Yankees offense appeared in, right? Because when you're the home team and you win, you don't bat in the bottom of the ninth inning, right? If you're leading, of course. And not only that, but Jake Bauers pitched the 8th inning of both those games. They didn't score against him. That's really how good it was. But a key, Devin Williams is able to settle down. And I wasn't confident that he would. Last time I saw him, he gave up a monster home run to Pete Alonso in the playoffs that eliminated his team, the Milwaukee Brewers at the time. And they have the book on him. Just like the Yankees have the book on Nestor Cortes, Milwaukee knows Devin Williams better than anyone. And it ends up being a situation after the Terang sac fly. Jake Bauer is still second. So it's second and third, one out for arguably Milwaukee's two most feared hitters, Jackson Churio and Christian Yelich. And there's also Contreras as well. So there's some other guys too, but Churio had a rough game. He struck out 5 times. What is it? The platinum sombrero? So 0 for 5 was with 5 strikeouts for Churio. Um, and then Williams strikes out Yelich. So that's the good thing, is that he was getting strikeouts, right? It was tough. I mean, he threw what, 36 pitches, was it? Yeah, 36 pitches for Devin Williams. So hopefully he gets that out of his system and they still won the game. He gets the save and a great, a very satisfying opening day win, but it got better. After the day off Friday, the Yankees just go nuts in game 2, score 20 runs. They get 9 homers. And like I said, Nestor Cortes it was batting practice. Paul Goldschmidt, first pitch homer. Cody Bellinger, first pitch homer. And Aaron Judge, first pitch homer. And the Bellinger and Judge shots were just massive. I mean, the Judge one, 468 feet. And then Austin Wells, I don't know how his carried out to the opposite field, but it did. So he also homered. So 4 Yankee homers in the first inning. And then that second inning is where things were really ugly for the Yanks. As far as how it went down errors-wise, it was a throwing error by Volpe, which Goldschmidt could have stopped, but still, Volpe maybe should have just not thrown it. A Max Fried error as well. It might have just been 2 errors, but just sloppiness overall, leading to 3 Milwaukee runs. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, just to tell you, it wasn't great. Max Fried as well. Look, some bad luck, but there was a hit by a pitch. Fried just wasn't sharp in this game ultimately. And then in the second inning, Yankees get those 3 runs right back as Anthony Volpe hits a 3-run homer to make it 7-3. And then in the third inning, after Cortes leaves the game after walking Jason Dominguez to start the third, it's a Cody Bellinger RBI single, and then Aaron Judge with a grand slam to make it 12-3 in the third inning. Just crazy stuff. And then Jazz Chisholm Jr. homers. So it's back-to-back 13-3 Yanks. And then in the fourth, they do give up a run. Was there bad Philly involved here? Yes. Pablo Reyes is a throwing error. So that's the thing. For Fried's line, it was 4 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, only 2 earned, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. But he doesn't get the win because he only goes 4 2/3. That's the problem. And they tried to get him through, but at, 94 pitches? Yeah, Boone makes the right call. He gets him out of there. And so Yoendris Gomez gets the win. And let me just see real quick. Was that Yoendris Gomez's first career Major League win? It was. So good for Yoendris Gomez, who, again, when I've seen him pitch, been pretty impressed by him. So definitely, I don't mind him being on this roster currently. But again, like, really bad by Pablo Reyes and Fried specifically in terms of the errors that occurred. But Fried is, with him, he's a good fielding pitcher, so I'm not really concerned about him much. And maybe it's just those first game Yankee jitters, but at the score at this point, and I kind of skipped ahead a little bit there, but because Aaron Judge hit a 2-run homer in the fourth after a Cody Bellinger sac fly. So it was 16-4, which became 16-6. And then eventually Cody Bellinger RBI single, Aaron Judge RBI double, so he had that home run. The last one was his third. He had a couple of chances for 4 homers, and this one goes off the right field wall. Just kind of, it jammed him a bit. So it just, fell short of being a homer, but another RBI for him, which makes it 18-6. Brent Hedrick, the lefty, makes his Yankee debut, and he does a nice job with a 1-2-3 inning with a couple of strikeouts. You get your debut at bats for like JC Escara. Oswald Peraza in his first at bat of the season, he hits a 2-run shot. So good for Peraza. And it's funny too, because I think last year in his first game, he might have homered in Detroit, if I remember correctly. So interesting on Peraza's front, but that would make it 20-6. And then Carlos Carrasco finishes it out. I'm not the highest on Carrasco at this stage of his career. He ends up going 2 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, and did give up a homer as well. And the homer that he gave up, what was it, in the 9th to Bryce Terang. But before that, Jake Bauers had that 8th inning where Judge smacks one to left, but it was caught. But again, somehow Jake Bauers, with a couple of scoreless innings in this series, but the Yankees win 20-9. And then game three, more of the same. The Yankees did trail just for one moment where in the first inning, Marcus Stroman gives up a run. And for Stroman, another situation where Yankees starter goes 4 2/3. But this was a more acceptable outing in terms of Stroman because my expectations for him are very low. It helps when the Yankees score this amount of runs. But Stroman 4 2/3, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. So hey, not great at all. Like it's not a good line. But that's kind of what you're looking for Stroman to get you around 5 innings, hopefully giving up no more than 3 runs and keeping you in games. So it's a combination of kind of eating enough innings and not letting the game get out of hand with the runs you give up. And so he did that. Again, Marcus Stroman as your number three starter, that's not good. And I am concerned a bit about this rotation. But if they can get a little bit healthy, right? Because Clark Schmidt, his return should be on the horizon. You hope to get Luis Hill back later on. You get all of them. Maybe an acquisition comes in the mix. And this rotation at that point should have some decent depth to it. And maybe someone like Will Warren surprisingly can step up and stay in the rotation. So Stroman gives up a run in the first. A Sal Frelick RBI single gets that done. And then in the bottom of the first, Aaron Judge right back at it with a 2-run homer to give the Yankees a 2-1 lead. And then at the bottom of the second, Ben Rice gets in on the act. So his first homer of the season gives the Yankees a 3-1 lead. Good for Ben Rice who, is looking to maybe make a name for himself in that DH spot or something to that effect. Then Jazz Chisholm Jr. homers to make it 5-1. And I should mention that the starter for the Brewers was Aaron Savali, who the Yankees have seen a lot, mostly with Cleveland. I mean, and you think about Savali in that playoff start against the Yankees in 2022, the winner-take-all ALDS game where Giancarlo Stanton hit a 3-run homer off him in the first inning of that game. But the Chisholm Jr. homer gives the Yankees a 5-1 lead, but then former Yankee Jake Bauers homers off a Stroman down the right field line to make it 5-3. So a little bit of pushback by Milwaukee, but pretty constant responses from the Yankees overall. Um, a good job by Tim Hill to finish out the inning in the fifth, strikes out Christian Yelich. And I think Stroman deservedly so. I think he was upset with Dominguez because Jackson Churio singled, but Dominguez just didn't even really go for it. Again, like just was not pleased by what I saw from him in this series. Dominguez, that is. And so the bottom of the sixth, Yankees get those 2 runs back off of the Jake Bauers home run a couple innings before. And just good fundamentals and good base running ultimately in this inning. Judge walk, Chisholm Jr. single on a Volpe flyout. Both runners advance. They changed pitchers. It was a lefty for lefty. There was a wild pitch by Jared Koenig, which scored Judge, and then an RBI ground up by Austin Wells, where Chisholm Jr. scores and shows off that speed, 7-3, right? So as much as it was the home runs, that was a good inning where they just kind of played fundamental ball. So they go back up by 4 runs. Mark Leiter Jr. comes on for Tim Hill and just does the job again. Really, I would say Mark Leiter Jr. was probably their most impressive reliever this series. Great job by him. And then in the bottom of the seventh, it's back to explosion time. Joel Payamps comes on, and it's an RBI single by Paul Goldschmidt, a sac fly by Cody Bellinger, and then a 3-run homer by Jazz Chisholm Jr. So it would be his second homer of the game and third homer of the series. 12-3 Yanks. Fernando Cruz makes his Yankee debut, and he was actually warming up for Devin Williams. When things were getting scary for Williams game one, it was Fernando Cruz warming up. Ultimately, he doesn't come in the game, but he does come in here to make his debut. First 6 pitches were balls, but then he settled down. So, right, I think he was a little bit amped up. We know his control's a bit of an issue, but he settled down, and it was nice. Like the Yankees, Oswaldo and Chisholm and Wells, they talked to him, and that helped. And, he finished out the inning clean. Bowers pitches that scoreless 8th inning, and then it would be Ryan Yarbrough making his debut in the 9th, his Yankee debut, and pitches a scoreless 9th inning. So I'm pretty sure with Yarbrough getting in there, I think everyone got in. Hitters, pitchers. So just a complete, impressive showing by the Yankees, and now another National League series as the Arizona Diamondbacks come to town. Interesting that the Yankees last year also played Arizona in the second series of the season, that one being in Arizona. And the Yankees last year started out 5-0. We'll see if they can do that this year. But hey, it's about winning series. But whenever you can get a sweep, that goes a long way. And so, if the Yankees can really have this nice home field advantage, Yankee Stadium will make things a lot easier. Going to be some interesting pitching matchups. And to preview those, Corbin Burnes versus Will Warren. You can't feel great about that matchup on paper, but we'll see. Again, it's at Yankee Stadium. Then game 2 is Zach Gallen against Carlos Rodon. I wouldn't be surprised if those two have, matched up before, maybe when Rodon was in San Francisco. Um, but that should be, at least on paper, a good matchup. And then game three, it's a bit concerning. Merrill Kelly versus Carlos Carrasco. So Carrasco to me, you know, um, it's kind of like a Stroman situation, but I think expectations are even worse on the Carrasco front of just finding ways to just limiting the damage. And again, sort of eating innings for the bullpen. So we'll see. These are tougher pitching matchups than maybe we saw against Milwaukee. But for Arizona, who should be a team that competes for the playoffs, just like Milwaukee. Milwaukee maybe more so for the NL Central. Arizona maybe more so for wild card positioning because the Dodgers are so dominant in the NL West, and you have the Padres as well. But these are not slouch teams, and in the case of Arizona, they, as I'm recording this, they're 1-2. They have a 4-game series home against the Cubs, in which, again, as I'm recording this in game 4 of that series, it's the 4th inning and Arizona only down 1-0. So either Arizona is going to come in having split the 4 games or having lost 3 out of 4. But should be another interesting series. But again, a historic weekend for the Yankees. They're 3-0. They absolutely dominate the Milwaukee Brewers. 36 runs, 15 homers. Aaron Judge just going crazy. 3 pitches, 3 homers to start the game against Nestor Cortes. Doesn't get much better than this. And hopefully this is a good sign of things to come in the 2025 season for the New York Yankees.